going to be the James Madison at Marshall game. James Madison coming in 6-0. Marshall's 4-2. You have a Marshall team that's +4 against the spread of 49.5 over under as well tonight. So you have a team in the Marshall Herd coming fresh off of a really tough game against North Carolina State. Then you have James Madison, who's kind of been going through the motions. They've had tough games. They've had easy games. They've had a whole lot of games this year. They've been in all types of games this year, and that's what makes them a really, really good team, a really dangerous team at the same time too. But this will probably be one of their tougher matchups of the year. They're going to Marshall. Marshall is hostile territory because Marshall's one of the best teams in the Sun Belt Conference. And when you look at James Madison's record, the last time they had a big road game for conference, it was against Troy. They wound up winning that game 16-14. But it took all effort to get that win because what happened in that game was that they hopped out to a nice lead, but they couldn't score. That was what the problem was. And at one point, they were up 6 points, and then they were damn near losing the game because they weren't up 6, but they were up 9 points, and then they wound up almost losing the game because they got a touchdown late, and then they were able to make a stop, but that was still, you know what I mean? You don't want to be in that close of a call, but they proved that they can stay hungry in a game, that they're not going to get flustered, they're not going to get frustrated, they're not going to get away from the game plan. Marshall, on the other hand, they have 2 losses on the season, and it's been the last 2 games in a row. Now, against NC State, they lose by 7, and they were in that game the whole game. And you know what? They come back the next week, go to Atlanta, play against Georgia State. Georgia State beats them 41-24, handing them their first conference loss of the season. So, this team just couldn't get it going in the fourth quarter the way that they wanted to, and they just put themselves in a bad position very early in the game. In the first half, you know what I mean? They're down 17-27, and they cut it to 3, but then they just couldn't get the job done in the fourth quarter. They couldn't get any stops, and that's what happens sometimes in these big-time games when it comes down to a team that has been heavily scouted well, and that's just what happened to Marshall. And so pretty much they come back this week. They're trying to bounce back at this spot right here, but it does look like they are treading water just a little bit. So I truly do feel that when it really comes down to it in this game this weekend, in this game tonight, you have this James Madison team that's led by probably the best player in the conference right now, and that's going to be Jordan McLeod, because Jordan McLeod is an absolute gem, and Jordan McLeod has played every single game like the best player in this conference. Like, yeah, he had a little bit of a trouble against South Alabama and Utah State. But those games were highly contested games. Those games were against really good teams, and he still was able to get in total 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 3 times. But his last 3 games, he's had 10 touchdowns, 3 picks, and pretty much when you average out his QBR is about 175 in those last 3 games. And his QBR has never been lower than 135.9 this year, and that was against Virginia in a win, okay? And James Madison's not supposed to go into Virginia and beat Virginia, even when Virginia's a bad team. That's how good James Madison is nowadays in the college football ranks. So I truly do feel that when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of this whole situation, this game really does call for James Madison to go ahead and win this game by a touchdown or better. I think Marshall still will be their toughest test of the year, but at the same time too, I just truly feel that they're going to be in position because they've been set up in the right position to be here. Because when you compare resumes and you compare teams that they pretty much played the same type of teams, but I would say James Madison played a little bit better just when you think about it. Even though North Carolina State probably is the best team on either one of these teams' schedule, but we know that that game was more of a rivalry game, more of a show and prove game. And I'll be honest with you, James Madison would have beat North Carolina State because they have a better defense. It's that simple. So pretty much it is what it is, and we are moving forward from there. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. When I get back, we'll be talking some NBA preview, and then we'll be talking some boxing as well too. So you guys stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DBI.